It was better without you two. That was what my husband said, after I learned his family had celebrated Christmas without me and our 4-year-old daughter. Then Lily whispered, "Daddy didn't want me?" I wanted to scream. Instead, I said, "Good to know," and reminded him that his mother still needed my signature after Christmas. Suddenly, everyone went quiet. Why? December 23rd was cold enough that dirty snow lined the preschool curb. I had just buckled Lily into the back seat when she held up the Christmas card she had made for her grandmother, covered in green crayon and glitter. I called Michael through Bluetooth. "What time should Lily and I come tomorrow?" Lily leaned forward. "Ask Daddy if Grandma will like my card." Michael said nothing. For a second, I thought the call had dropped. Then I heard a television, dishes, and people talking. A moment later, Eleanor came on the line, almost cheerful. "Oh, honey, we already did Christmas yesterday." I stared through the windshield. She explained that everyone had been available. Ryan came, Beth was there, some cousins stopped by. Michael had been there too. Each name felt like another door closing. But I was looking at Lily in the rearview mirror. She was still holding that card. Michael took the phone back and said his mother had wanted one peaceful Christmas. "So Lily and I were the problem?" He said that was not what he meant. I asked what tension I had supposedly caused. I asked for one example. He could not give me one. Finally, he said it. "It was better without you two." The car went still. Lily stopped moving the card. Then she asked, very softly, "Daddy didn't want me?" I did not cry. I did not yell. I looked at my daughter and became very calm. "Good to know," I said. Michael started explaining, but I cut him off. "Did you tell your mother I'm the one signing her refinance Thursday?" The voices in the background disappeared. Eleanor came back immediately, her tone softer. Seconds earlier, I had been too troublesome for Christmas. Now I was the woman whose name they needed. Months earlier, Eleanor's roof had started leaking. After her husband died, she had a mortgage, credit card debt, and repairs. Michael's credit was not strong enough to help her refinance. Mine was. I had agreed to let the lender review my income and credit for a possible co-borrower arrangement near $87,000. I had not signed final loan terms. For years, I had been the person who kept the peace. I fixed things, paid things, and tried not to make problems bigger. Eventually, people stop seeing that as generosity. They start seeing it as access. After I ended the call, Lily looked down at the card. "Should I throw Grandma's card away?" "No, sweetheart, you made it because you love her. What she did doesn't get to decide why you made it." Lily held the card against her chest. I still did not know how long that secret Christmas had been planned. And I had no idea yet that Michael had put my name inside something much bigger than Christmas. I had told Lily to keep the card. Later that night, after she was asleep, I found something that made me realize I needed to start keeping a few things too. Evidence. I opened Facebook at the kitchen table and saw Eleanor had posted 17 Christmas pictures. The caption read, "Finally had the whole family together again." I stared at that sentence longer than I should have. Ryan was there, Beth was there. Cousins, aunts, people I had wrapped gifts for were smiling around Eleanor's tree. Then I noticed Michael. He was wearing the dark blue sweater I had bought him 2 weeks earlier. I had hidden it in the hall closet because I wanted to give it to him Christmas morning. Somehow, he had found it. He had opened my gift, worn it to the Christmas celebration I was not invited to, and apparently never considered how that might look if I found out. That was the moment the whole thing stopped feeling like a scheduling mistake. Michael came home a little after 9. I heard the mudroom door open. He walked into the kitchen, still wearing that sweater. I looked at it. He followed my eyes and sighed. "Oh, come on. Not, I'm sorry. Not, I should have told you. Just irritation that I had noticed. Why didn't you tell me?" He dropped his keys on the counter and said his mother did not want drama. I asked what drama meant. He mentioned Beth. I reminded him that Beth and I had been in the same room plenty of times without anybody throwing a plate. Michael looked tired. Then the conversation shifted. He said, I was always the one with the steady paycheck. The good credit, the person who handled the bills. I did not understand what that had to do with Christmas until he said something quieter. Every time Mom needs something, she calls me, and then I have to come ask you. That stopped me. After his business failed, I had taken over more of our financial life. Bills, insurance, taxes, bigger decisions. I had never meant to make Michael feel small, but intention and impact are not always the same thing. Sometimes marriages do not crack because one person earns less. They crack because nobody knows how to talk about what changed when one person lost the role they thought defined them. I could understand Michael's shame. I could not understand using it to erase me and Lily. My phone buzzed. It was Ryan. I'm sorry about Christmas. Dad said you decided not to come. I read it twice. Then I typed, Who told you that? His answer came almost immediately. Dad. Ryan needed one word to change the whole story. Dad. I called him before I could talk myself out of it. Ryan sounded uncomfortable. He told me Michael had said Beth was coming to Christmas and that I had refused to attend if she was there. According to Michael, I had also decided to keep Lily home with me. Then Ryan added something worse. Michael had told everyone not to call me because I would make it a whole thing. I sat very still at the kitchen table. This was no longer about somebody forgetting to update me. Michael had created a version of me that explained my own absence. If the family believed I had chosen not to come, nobody had to ask why my husband had left his wife and daughter out of Christmas. They would not see him as cruel. They would see me as difficult. And Michael could look like the man who had tried his best. I asked Ryan one question. Did anyone ask about Lily? He said Beth had. Michael told her, I thought Lily was too young to care. That was the moment my anger turned cold. He had not only excluded our daughter, he had used me to explain why she was not there. Ryan was quiet for a moment. Then he said, Christmas wasn't moved at the last minute. I asked what he meant. He told me Michael had asked him more than a week earlier to keep December 22nd open. Planned. Not forgotten. Not confused. Planned. I looked toward the stairs, where Michael had gone after our argument. Until then, I had been asking why they excluded me. Now a different question settled in. What else had Michael been explaining for me when I was not in the room? That question changed something in me. I stopped wanting another argument. Arguments depended on memory, tone, and whoever spoke first. I wanted facts. After the call, I looked at the calendar on my phone. Thursday, refinance closing. I had believed I was helping an older woman repair a leaking roof, but if Michael could plan a secret Christmas for more than a week and let me believe another version, I needed to know exactly what I was about to sign. The next morning, I called the credit union. Christmas Eve morning, before Michael was even fully awake, I called the credit union. I asked for the final closing package for Eleanor's refinance. The loan officer, Melissa, sounded surprised when I told her I had never received the complete documents. She checked the file, apologized, and said she would send everything to my email. A few minutes later, the PDF arrived. I opened it at the kitchen table. The Christmas lights were still blinking beside the window. My coffee was getting cold near my elbow. Then I saw the number. $142,000. I read it again. I had understood the refinance to be around $87,000. Months earlier, I had allowed the lender to check my credit. I had provided income documents and agreed that they could consider me as a possible co-borrower. That was all. I had never approved final terms for $142,000. Nobody had forged my signature. Nobody had stolen my identity. Michael had done something quieter. He had allowed the process to keep moving while assuming that once I was sitting at the closing table, I would sign because I had already promised to help his mother. I kept reading. There was the existing mortgage, credit card debt, the roof work, closing fees. Then I reached another line. Cash out to borrower. Approximately $28,000. I called Michael. When I asked what the extra money was for, he said his mother needed reserves. I told him nobody had discussed $28,000 in additional cash with me. He was quiet for a second. Then he said, "You forget things when you're stressed." I felt something tighten in my chest. For a moment, I actually searched my memory. Had there been a conversation? Had I missed something? Then I looked back at the paperwork. No, I did not argue. I wrote down the number, 28,000. There is a wide distance between agreeing to help someone and giving them permission to change what you agreed to. I was beginning to understand that difference. I called Laura Grant, an attorney, a coworker had recommended. She did not tell me to file for divorce. She did not tell me to empty our accounts or change the locks. She asked one question. Have you signed the final note? No. Then don't sign debt you don't understand because somebody made you feel guilty. She told me to leave the joint accounts alone, hide nothing, keep every document, and avoid angry messages. By the time we hung up, I felt different. I no longer needed Michael to agree with my version of events. I needed records. My phone rang again. Ryan. Claire, I found something in Grandma's refinance papers. What? He hesitated. It's from a real estate agent in Naples. I knew Naples was in Florida. What I did not know was why the name of a real estate agent there was sitting inside Eleanor's refinance papers. Ryan sent me a picture. It showed a small seasonal condo. Nothing extravagant. No private beach. No marble staircase. Just a modest place where someone could spend part of the winter somewhere warm. I could understand why Eleanor wanted it. Her husband had talked for years about spending winters in Florida. He died before they ever did. Wanting that life was not the problem. Deciding my credit would help pay for it without asking me was. The reservation deposit was $28,000, almost the exact amount listed as cash out in the refinance. Then I saw the handwriting at the bottom of the page. Michael says, Claire will sign after Christmas. I read it twice. The side door opened a few minutes later. Michael walked into the kitchen, carrying a paper bag from his mother's house. I turned my phone toward him. Merry Christmas, Michael. Tell me about Naples. His first reaction was to ask why Ryan had been going through private papers. I told him that was not the question. Michael said his mother deserved something nice. He said it was only a seasonal property, something she had wanted for years. I agreed. Eleanor deserved a dry roof. She deserved peace in retirement. She deserved to enjoy whatever years she had left. But she did not deserve to decide that my income and credit would carry the risk. Why didn't you tell me? Michael looked away. Then he finally said, because you would have said no. That sentence settled everything. If he knew I would say no, then he knew I had never agreed. After that, Michael began explaining what had been building inside him since his business failed. Every time Eleanor needed something, she called him first, and every time he eventually had to come to me. Then he said something quieter. For one night, I didn't want to feel like Claire Whitman's husband. I could understand the shame behind that. I could not excuse what he had done with it. Fine, you were angry at me. Explain Lily. He went silent. Finally, he admitted that if Lily had gone without me, people would have asked questions. So? Michael stared at the table. It was simpler. That hurt more than Naples. Our daughter had been left out because her presence would have made his lie harder to maintain. Later, Beth called. She told me Michael had also said I refused to come if she was there. She said if she had known Lily and I were deliberately excluded, she would not have gone. Before the night ended, Eleanor called too. She said I was using her roof to punish everyone over Christmas. Then she said, "We'll settle this Thursday at the credit union." Thursday is fine. I was not going there to argue. I was bringing paperwork. I took Lily to Nancy's house for a few days. Michael stood near the bedroom door while I packed a small bag. "Are you leaving me?" I kept folding Lily's pajamas. I need a few days where nobody explains to me why something I saw with my own eyes didn't happen. He did not answer. At Nancy's, Lily kept the Christmas card beside her. That night, she asked, "Will Santa know where we are?" I smiled. "Santa has GPS now." She laughed, then asked when we were going home. Children do not understand refinance terms or manipulation. They understand who reads bedtime stories and whether daddy is sleeping in the same house. After Lily fell asleep, I sat at Nancy's dining table and started a folder. The final loan summary, the roof estimate, screenshots of Michael's messages asking me to bring food and folding chairs for Christmas, the Naples email, notes from Laura, a short timeline from December 22nd through the 26th. When family conflict involves money, memory can become opinion quickly. Paper is harder to argue with. I also had to ask myself something uncomfortable. Was I doing this to punish Eleanor? I remembered the stain on her ceiling and the bucket she kept near the back door when it rained. She was still a widow, living alone in a house that needed work. So I made one decision. I would still help with the reasonable roof repair I had agreed to support. But I would not borrow $142,000. I would not finance Naples. And I would not turn kindness into a blank check. I used to think boundaries were what people created after love was gone. I had that backward. Sometimes boundaries are how you find out whether a relationship contains enough respect to survive. On December 26th, I drove to the credit union. The lobby had gray carpet, beige walls, a fake poinsettia, and a Keurig machine near reception. Christmas music played quietly overhead. Michael was already there. So was Eleanor. Ryan sat nearby. Melissa led us into a small conference room. Eleanor looked at me like I had been called in to explain myself. I said nothing. I set my folder on the table. I was not there to make them believe me anymore. I was there to decide what I would allow to happen with my name. Melissa placed the bank documents in front of us. Eleanor spoke first. "Before we do anything, I think everyone needs to understand Claire is angry because Beth came to Christmas." I let her finish. Then I opened my folder. The first thing I took out was the roof estimate. For once, I was going to let the numbers answer for me. Eleanor was still talking when I slid the roof estimate across the table. She said I had never been comfortable with Beth. She called Christmas a scheduling misunderstanding and said I was too sensitive. Then she told Melissa that I was using my good credit to punish a widow over one family dinner. Michael sat beside her and said nothing. That hurt more than I expected. He knew what had happened, but as long as I was the angry wife, he did not have to be the husband who had lied. I pointed to the contractor estimate. The roof is about $23,000. Then I placed the final loan summary beside it. The proposed refinance is $142,000. Ryan leaned closer. He had thought this was mainly about repairing the house. I showed him the cash outline, almost $28,000. Eleanor called it an emergency reserve. I placed the Naples paperwork on top. The room became very quiet. People often think the loudest person in an argument has the most power. I was beginning to understand something different. When you have the paperwork, you do not need to raise your voice. You just need to know when to put it on the table. Ryan read the Naples pages. Grandma, were you planning to use Claire's credit for this? Eleanor insisted she would make the payments herself. Ryan looked at her. But you're refinancing because you're already struggling with the payments you have. Her face tightened. Then she went back to Christmas. None of this would be happening if Claire hadn't made such a big deal out of one dinner. Ryan turned toward Michael. Dad told us Claire refused to come. I unlocked my phone and showed him the messages Michael had sent while that private Christmas was being planned. He had asked me to buy cranberry relish. He had reminded me to bring the folding chairs. He had even mentioned one of Eleanor's favorite side dishes. Ryan looked at his father. If Claire refused to come, why were you still letting her prepare for it? Michael stared at the table. He had no answer. Eleanor tried one more time. Lily is 4. She'll barely remember any of this. Something inside me went completely still. I looked directly at her. She already remembers asking why her father didn't want her. Michael lowered his head. Ryan spoke before anyone else could. Grandma, Dad lied to everybody. That isn't Claire's feelings. Melissa waited a moment, then calmly explained that without my agreement to the final terms and my signature, the loan could not move forward as presented. Eleanor turned toward me. You promised. I promised to help repair your roof. I never promised to finance Florida. I looked at the paperwork. I'm not signing this loan. I did not tear anything up. I did not throw the pen. I did not need to. The pen stayed capped. I used to imagine that standing up for yourself would feel dramatic. Sometimes it does not. Sometimes consequences are simply a pen that never opens and a signature that never appears. My name would not sit beneath a decision I had never made. The credit union door closed behind us. Michael followed me into the parking lot. Without Eleanor, Melissa, or the paperwork between us, there was nowhere left for either of us to hide. Winter salt covered the sides of our cars. Michael stopped a few feet away. Are you leaving me? I did not say yes. I did not say no. I'm staying with Nancy for now. He looked down at the pavement. Then he asked the question I had heard in one form or another for years. What am I supposed to do? Normally, that question would have turned me into a problem solver. I would have found a counselor, called the contractor, figured out the money, explained things to Ryan, calmed Eleanor down. Then I would have found some way to make Michael feel better about whatever had happened. I had spent years fixing problems so quickly that sometimes nobody else had to feel the full weight of creating them. This time, I left the problem where it belonged. Figure out what you did without asking me to fix it. He looked at me for a long moment. I got into my car. Later, I picked Lily up at Nancy's. She reached into her little bag and pulled out Eleanor's Christmas card. Grandma still didn't get it? Not yet. Lily carefully tucked it back inside. We better keep it safe. We will. Leaving did not feel like freedom. It felt like a crowded guest room. My work clothes hung behind Nancy's closet door because there was nowhere else to put them. Lily slept beside me and somehow managed to take up most of the bed. Every morning I still drove her to preschool. Then I drove to work. At night, there was laundry, dinner, bath time, and another morning waiting behind it. The right decision does not always make life easier immediately. Sometimes it makes life harder for a while. The difference is that the difficulty belongs to a choice you made for yourself. I was beginning to understand that independence did not mean needing nobody. It meant not being forced to stay somewhere simply because leaving was impossible. About 3 weeks later, I signed a lease on a small 2-bedroom apartment in Westerville. Nothing fancy. The kitchen was narrow, The carpet was beige. The view was another apartment building. But the key was mine. I sent Michael the address. He called that evening. So this is permanent? I stood beside a half-unpacked box while Lily colored at the kitchen table. I don't know yet. And for the first time in my life, not knowing did not frighten me. The uncertainty became easier to live with once our new routine settled in. Michael called often, sometimes about Lily, sometimes about us. His apologies sounded sincere at first. Then I started noticing the same pattern. He was sorry, but his mother had pressured him. He was sorry, but he had been embarrassed about losing his business. He was sorry, but he never thought Lily would hear what he said. He was sorry, but he never meant for Christmas to become such a mess. There was always a but. I began to understand that an apology can sound gentle and still ask the injured person to carry part of the blame. Michael wanted me to understand him before he was willing to understand what he had done to me. Lily made everything both simpler and harder. She missed her father. She did not care about $142,000. She did not know what Naples meant or what a closing document was. She missed the man who read bedtime stories. She missed the way he cut her sandwiches into triangles. She missed going to the playground with him on Saturday mornings. One night she asked if Daddy was bad now. I sat beside her on the couch. No, sweetheart, Daddy made a bad choice. That was all I gave her. I did not want my daughter serving as the jury for a marriage she was too young to understand. Michael eventually asked if I would go to marriage counseling. I did not agree because I had decided to save the marriage. I agreed because I needed to know whether he could take responsibility without asking me to help him carry it. The first few sessions were difficult. Michael kept returning to the same places. His failed business, Eleanor, his embarrassment, the fact that I had taken over most of our bills and household finances afterward. I listened, and I admitted something too. After his company failed, I probably had taken over more than I realized, sometimes because it was necessary. Sometimes because doing things myself felt easier than waiting for him to recover. I could accept that. What I could not accept was responsibility for what he chose to do with his shame. Understanding why someone hurts you is not the same as agreeing to be hurt again. By our fourth session, Michael was explaining Christmas once more. I only did it because our therapist raised one hand. Michael stopped. Then she asked him something that made the entire room go quiet. Do you want Claire to understand why you did it, or do you want to take responsibility for doing it? Michael did not answer the therapist right away. For the first time in weeks, he let the silence stay where it was. He did not rush to explain his mother. He did not bring up the business. He did not ask me to understand how embarrassed he had felt. He just sat there. After that session, the changes were small enough that I almost missed them. When we had a shared expense, Michael sent me the full information. If Eleanor asked him for help, he stopped promising anything on my behalf. He stopped using Ryan to pass messages between us. He stopped blaming Beth, and he never again told me I needed to get over Christmas. None of that was dramatic. That was why I trusted it more. One afternoon, Eleanor made a comment about me being too particular. Michael said, "Mom, stop." 2 words. A year earlier, he would have looked down at his plate and waited for the moment to pass. This time, he did not. A few weeks later, he asked if he could talk to Lily with me there. We sat in my apartment living room while Lily colored on the floor. Michael lowered himself beside her. Daddy made a bad choice at Christmas. Lily looked up. You didn't invite me. No. She stared at him. Why? Michael swallowed. He did not say his mother pressured him. He did not say I was upset. He did not mention Beth. Because Daddy tried to make something easier for himself, and it hurt you. Lily thought about that. Then she pointed at the crayon box. "Can I have the purple one?" I handed it to her. Adults often imagine forgiveness as a ceremony. We expect speeches, tears, and one perfect moment when everybody understands everything. Children are sometimes simpler than that. Sometimes they need one honest answer, then they go back to coloring. The adults are the ones who have to learn how to live with what happened. I did not hug Michael. I did not tell him everything was forgiven. I only noticed that for the first time he had apologized without handing part of the responsibility back to me. That mattered. But while Michael was beginning to change, Eleanor was not. Her message came that evening. "I hope someday you understand what you took from me." I knew she meant Naples. But the next boundary was not going to be about money. It was going to be about how and whether she was allowed back into Lily's life. The refinance was canceled, and Eleanor had to deal with the problems that had been there before Naples ever entered the picture. Ryan helped her work through the practical parts. The roof still needed repair. Some of her debt had to be restructured. Expenses had to be cut. The idea of spending winters in Florida disappeared. I kept the promise I had originally made. I paid the portion of the roof repair I had agreed to help with directly to the roofing contractor. Some people might wonder why I gave Eleanor anything after what happened. I asked myself the same question. The answer was simple. I did not want Eleanor's behavior deciding what kind of person I became. Keeping my word did not mean obeying her. It meant honoring the promise I had actually made, not the larger promise she and Michael had created for me. A few months later, Eleanor asked if she could visit Lily. I said yes, but I gave her clear boundaries. She could not criticize me in front of Lily. She could not discuss the separation with her. She could not tell Lily that Christmas had gone wrong because Mommy was difficult. And she could not arrive with expensive gifts and expect them to repair what happened. Eleanor did not like the rules. She followed them anyway. Her first visit to the apartment was awkward. I made coffee. Eleanor brought a small stuffed bunny from Target. We talked about the weather, preschool, and anything else that felt safe. About 20 minutes later, Lily suddenly jumped up. "Grandma, wait!" She disappeared down the hallway. When she came back, she was holding an old piece of construction paper, the Christmas card. Some of the glitter had worn away. One corner was bent. Lily held it out. "Grandma, I saved it for you." Eleanor stared at the card. "You did?" Lily nodded. "Mommy said I made it because I loved you." Eleanor opened it. Inside were the same uneven stick figures holding hands beneath a crooked green Christmas tree. She touched the paper with one finger. Then her eyes filled. I could have said something. I could have reminded her why Lily never gave it to her that Christmas. I could have mentioned Naples, the loan, or the conference room. I did not. There are moments when you can prove you were right. And there are moments when proving it would make you smaller than the truth already sitting in front of everyone. I let Lily have that moment with her grandmother. By the time the next Christmas began approaching, Michael and I were still legally married. We were still living apart. But the question had changed. It was no longer whether he had apologized. It was whether he had become different when nobody was watching. By the time the next Christmas came around, Michael and I were still living apart. There was no dramatic reunion, no promise that everything had been repaired. We had started having dinner together once or twice a month. Sometimes Lily came with us, sometimes Nancy kept her for the evening so Michael and I could sit across from each other without having to be parents for an hour. I still did not know whether I would move back home. The difference was that uncertainty no longer frightened me. Michael kept changing in small ways. He stopped promising Eleanor money that belonged to both of us. If she needed help, he told her honestly what he could and could not do. He showed me bills instead of assuming I would handle them. He respected the boundaries around Lily, and when Eleanor made one of her little comments, he stopped pretending not to hear. One evening she said, "Claire always has to be so particular." Michael looked at her. "Mom, don't." That was all. 11 years earlier, he would have stared at his plate. Real change rarely looks the way movies make it look. It is usually smaller, repeated, and most of it happens when nobody is there to applaud. When I looked back on that Christmas, I realized the hardest part was not that they ate dinner without me. It was not Beth. It was not Naples. The hardest part was knowing my husband had once found it easier to erase his wife and daughter from the room than to tell his mother the truth. I had something to learn too. For years I thought being mature meant staying calm, paying the bills, fixing the problem, understanding one more excuse, and carrying a little more than my share. Eventually, people began confusing my generosity with permission. I did not take Eleanor's house. I did not empty our accounts. I did not use Lily to punish Michael. I did not need revenge. I simply stopped putting my name beneath decisions other people had made without me. You can be generous without making yourself useful to people who do not respect you, and you can forgive someone without handing them the same pen again. One evening, Lily sat at the small kitchen table in our apartment, making another Christmas card. I watched the pen move across the paper. For a moment, I remembered the pen that had stayed capped at the credit union. It used to be just something I signed with. After that Christmas, it meant something else. I did not need anyone's permission to protect my name, my money, or my dignity. And that was what Christmas finally taught me. Dignity does not require revenge. Sometimes it simply means knowing when not to sign your name. If you have stayed with me to the end, I would truly like to know how satisfied you were with this story. Do you think I made the right choice, or would you have handled Michael and Eleanor differently?